I want to take this time to read the author's note. Many people in the United States are hostile toward undocumented immigrants. These immigrants are seen as criminals who need to be kicked out or stopped from entering this country. But the undocumented are an important part of the workforce. They are a source of cheap labor performing work many Americans will not do. According to a 2006 Pew Research Center report, there are approximately 8 million unauthorized immigrants working in the United States. That means 1 out of every 20 workers in the country is undocumented. Unauthorized immigrants work primarily in low-wage jobs in farming, construction, and the service industry. A 2009 landmark study by the National Employment Law Project, NELP, that surveyed in low-wage jobs in 3 major U.S. cities found that more than a quarter of them were paid less than the minimum wage, were not paid overtime, and did not receive appropriate compensation when they were injured on the job. A large number of these surveyed were unauthorized immigrants. They were twice as likely to experience these abuses. It is difficult for the undocumented to stand up against unscrupulous bosses. The fear that their employers will retaliate and have them deported often stops them from doing so. The NELP study found that 1 in 5 workers had serious complaints about their jobs, but decided not to say anything, and that 43% of workers who dared to complain or tried to organize were threatened, suspended, or had their hours cut. While living in New York City, I volunteered at the National Mobilization Against Sweatshops, NEMAS Center. There I met courageous workers who stood up against these abuses, regardless of their immigration status. This book is inspired by their stories. At the center, I met some people who fought and were able to recuperate years of stolen wages and improve the working conditions at their jobs. But I also met others who, after years of organizing, picketing, and engaging in legal battles, have been unable to receive compensation because their bosses fled or claimed false bankruptcies. Under the current conditions, an employer who follows the law has a hard time competing with employers who exploit the undocumented. This ignites a race to the bottom, where in order to stay in business, employers lower wages and deteriorate conditions for all workers, not just unauthorized ones. The NELP study shows that workers in low-wage jobs, whether they are U.S. citizens or authorized or unauthorized immigrants, often experience work violations. NEMAS and many other organizations around the country are fighting to change the current environment so that all working people are compensated fairly and treated with dignity. To find out more and to get involved, visit nemas.org. A 2010 New York Times CBS News poll found that the overwhelming majority of Americans think the country's immigration system needs to be fixed. But a true improvement cannot focus solely on deportations and building a wall. Comprehensive immigration reform needs to acknowledge the significant role the undocumented play in the labor force, and it needs to protect these workers from the pervasive exploitation they experience. It is not only the right thing to do, but it is in everyone's best interest. And this is written by the author, Duncan Tenay to you. Well, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the story.